Hey, Diversa family. So we're here in wrapping up SCRS West this week in sunny Arizona, and I had an opportunity to go do a workout and talk more about physical health and mental health with Ashley, with the E before the L, Ashley Mitchell of Arizona Neuroscience Research. I'll let you introduce yourself, though. I won't take all of it.
Sure. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Mitchell. I work as the Clinical Research Manager and the VP of Strategic Partnerships for Arizona Neuroscience Research here in Phoenix, Arizona. It is getting hot out right now, so just know if you're working out, make sure that's indoors. Safety first. I did want to start this interview, if possible, with reading from this book, just because this is my first podcast I've ever done. And due to the topic of physical and mental health, Jesus Calling, Enjoying Peace in His Presence by Sarah Young. And ironically, today, being June the 4th, it says, "Welcome challenging times as opportunities to trust me. You have me beside you and my spirit within you, so no set of circumstances is too much for you to handle. When the path before you is dotted with difficulties, beware of measuring your strength against those challenges. That calculation is certain to riddle you with anxiety. Without me, you wouldn't make it past the first hurdle. The way to walk through demanding days is to grip my hand tightly and stay in close communication with me. Let your thoughts and spoken words be richly favored with trust and thankfulness. Regardless of the day's problems, I can keep you in perfect peace as you stay close to me." And it just kind of reminds me of, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and I find that strength in Christ. Other people find it in different things, but I thought that would be a good devotional to start before we do this interview. It really is,
and it's a good segue. I mean, the piece is really heavily focused on like anxiety and stresses throughout the day and how you get through. But when it comes to like mental health, it's more than just like anxieties or regular stresses. Everybody struggles with like aspects of depression. I know one of the big things we normally talk about, especially lately, is a lot of like burnout and work and everything. And that looks like pretty much all of that at the same time, like this perfect storm of going into some mental breakdown, essentially. But the great thing that I found like really inspirational from, I saw you post something not too long ago. And that's why I was like, oh, when I'm in Arizona, I want to get together and do like a workout and talk about this with you, because you were posting workouts and talking about this health, because we're now just past Mental Health Awareness Month, but this should never be just confined to 1 month. So we're going to keep it rolling.
Okay.
But it really got me thinking more is like that physical exercise aspect of how these workouts play a benefit and how they impact your overall mental health. It's not just about like, not just about like look good, feel good, right? I mean, I know a lot of people say that it's like how you dress and help carrying your confidence a lot of times, but the science behind it is actually like when you have physical exercise and your body, your muscles are contracting, your body's releasing these myokines and they go into your bloodstream, cross the blood-brain barrier, and they actually act like little antidepressants. And they help, with retaining information and knowledge and just overall boost your mood and kind of help carry people throughout the day. So I know there's a lot of professionals. It's like first thing in the morning, you get up and like you get ready, you go to the gym, and then you go to the office or something, or you go to work. I try to hit it like late morning, but maybe a little bad about checking my emails first thing. But
the important thing is that you get it in.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever that looks like for you, I think that's important for sure.
So I think kind of why mental health is so important to me. For one, perception is everything, and how I perceive life is going to determine what my life looks like that day.
Yeah.
When I go and I give my all at the gym, there is a sort of not only an adrenaline rush, but like an endorphin high that carries me throughout the day. So like I can fully execute. It keeps my mind sharp. What I wasn't able to do a year ago in the gym, now I can do 20 of. And I have people that I surround myself with that support me in my mental health and my physical health. And for me personally, staying consistent and making sure that I'm at the gym at least 5 times a week, it just helps me be a better person. If I miss a day, I do feel like I'm off in some form or fashion. And while I may not go first thing in the morning, I do make sure I get it in when I can in the day. And sometimes that looks like 12 to 1, my lunch hour. And my employer is a huge part of that. Like, they're fine with me leaving for an hour. I put my gym clothes on and I'm like, see ya, I'm out of here. I've been working on budgets and contracts for the last 6 hours. I really need to go to the gym and release some of this steam. Exactly. And it didn't always look like this for me. I started in clinical research in 2017. As a clinical research coordinator, I can relate to the people who do reach burnout. I felt so blessed to fall into this industry. However, I burn out very quickly because I was running multiple studies at the same time. I didn't have a ton of training. Whenever I started research, there was a time that I was burnt out and I found myself in a depression. I was one of the people that was your typical scroller on social media, and I was admiring the highlight reel of everyone else, but I was in such a dark place, and I wasn't taking care of myself physically at that time. My physical health was not a priority because I didn't make time for it. And we benefit from what we make time for, and we can choose positive things or things that aren't so healthy.
Absolutely.
And whenever I chose a year ago to start really prioritizing my physical health, my mental health benefited just naturally. It was just consequently the best decision I think I've ever made for my mental health was picking up healthy habits and physical.
Right. Well, one of the other things you mentioned too, which I picked up on, was that something when you started, maybe you can only do one of, now you can do like 20 of. Mm-hmm. And that to me translates to like small victories. So you're challenging yourself constantly, and you feel bad when you miss a day at the gym because that's something you hold yourself to, you hold yourself accountable for.
Right.
And those little victories, and that might not necessarily just be in physical exercise. It might be small victories that we find throughout the workday, right? You start with a certain number of tasks and you knock out all these easy things real quick. Anything you get done in like 3 minutes, like get these handled immediately, and then you're getting these little victories done constantly. And those small successes can help drive you and help keep you boosted and motivated throughout the whole day, instead of just being overburdened and bogged down with one thing. You pick the hardest thing to tackle, and that's all you focus on, and you don't have any success. It's really hard mentally to handle that all the time.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of like box jumps for me. I would not go to a training or any workout where they had box jumps because I was literally terrified. I could see myself falling and my shins bleeding, and I mean, it was worst case scenario. And so I just cut it out as even an option for myself. In my mind, I made up that I could not do that. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I'm not even going to try. Mm-hmm. And when I started working out with August over at Independence Gym in Scottsdale, he's like, girl, you can clear that box. Start here. And he gave me something that I could step up on, probably 12 inches off the ground. Anybody could step on it. So I was like, okay, I can do that. So I jumped and I made it. And he's like, see? And then the confidence built a little. Yeah. And then he gave me a bigger box. And maybe this was 18 inches. And I jumped. And he's like, girl, you had 5 inches on that at least. And then my confidence built. And then he gave me a bigger box last Saturday. And he's like, now you're telling me you were afraid of that this whole time. And look at you.
Yeah, crushing it.
And I was crushing it. And so by doing things like that and by showing up for myself, it just automatically gives me this confidence boost because I'm doing things that my brain has told me for so long that I couldn't do. And therefore, I'm showing up as a better person in all that I do because I'm taking care of me, which allows me to share that me with someone else.
Yeah, 100%. The other thing I want to make sure that we're clear about too, right? You and I went and did this quasi CrossFit class on Saturday, but it's not where everybody has to start, right? If you're not
at all.
It depends on what you what level of fitness you're at as far as what you can do active wise. I mean, there's also other factors, right? You know, other medical factors or disabilities that come into play that might limit what you can do. So box jumps are out of the picture for some people. But it's like maybe challenge yourself to walk for a certain amount of time or try to get a certain number of steps in per day. Anything that you can kind of create those small successes and be active and just move. You know, a lot of times, like it's kind of silly, but like I'll wear roller skates. Like I have my home office, right? You know, it's the entire basement of my house is my home office. But I'll just like throw on roller skates. So if I get up to go to the bathroom or something, like I'm roller skating around my basement. Awesome. And then I normally have like, if I'm not in a meeting, of course, like I've got like music on in the background, and there's just random times that I'll talk with like coworkers or other like colleagues in the industry, and I'm like, yeah, I was like, oh, I'll just like take a dance break or something.
Yeah.
just something gets you like motivated and energized, and something to keep me moving, and it just keeps my brain going, keeps the energy there all day long.
That's awesome. Yeah, you definitely don't have to start with box jumps. I started doing a Zumba class with 60, let's say 50 and up, the age group of 50 and up in Cave Creek. And I would do that on Saturday mornings. And that was activity enough for me at the time because I was not in shape. Cardio was all I could do, and I could do it for a minimal amount of time. And I thought because of the target age group that we were, that we could rest. And that's what that allowed me to do.
Yeah.
Until, you know, eventually I started doing things that were a little more challenging. And then I met those goals. And so just recently, you know, I'm a Lifetime Fitness member, great gym. They offer classes, and I am a group class. Like I love to have an instructor-led class because it helps me with my form. It shows me what to do. I don't really familiarize myself with a lot of the equipment in the gym, simply because it's just not the way I prefer to work out.
Yeah.
But the classes, they let you start somewhere, and there's all different ages. And I think that's what's important for me, is because I could show up not being a real experienced athlete and work my way into where I am now. And now I'm doing box jumps. Like I didn't start there. Yeah. So, you know, to kind of circle back from being this depressed person that was alone a lot of time when I wasn't at work, scrolling on social media, wishing for this different life, to becoming the person that actually said yes to something for a change and got outside of my comfort zone, signed up for the gym, you know, went to my first class, shaking in my boots, literally shaking. I did not want to be around all those people because I just knew that they knew how to do everything and I knew how to do nothing. To being one of the people that now is at the front of the class and having other people ask me, you know, am I doing this right? Yeah. Like in a year and a half, that's huge progress.
Yeah.
And all it takes is someone to say yes. You have to show up for yourself.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you're the only one that is always going to be able to show up for you all the time. Yeah. That's great. So, I mean, like there's Zumba, I mean, water aerobics, there's so many different things out there. So it's like, definitely don't want to like have this expectation of, oh, you should be doing these specific things only. It's just literally do something, like do anything that's just physical and active.
Walk down your street.
100%.
I mean,
100%.
It's
gardening. I mean, actually, you know, my daughter just did this. It was the last mile for the Flying Pig Marathon in Cincinnati. So like every Tuesday and Thursday after school, they would all like just run laps and collect up their like 25 miles or something before they did their 26th mile. They finished the 1 mile run actually as part of like the weekend for the marathon, because it's a whole weekend event out there. And that's a similar concept, but part of that was like, okay, if there's rained out and we can't run after school or something with weather, how are you going to make up this equivalent? Like, can we come up with like a mile equivalent of other exercises? She literally has this whole list of breakdown of like how we can equate certain exercises to what that might look like if you walked or jogged a mile. And it has like playing, like just throwing frisbees, gardening in there, all kinds of stuff, just something to move your body. But I think I might cook a little bit too intense sometimes, but I mean, even like cooking, right? You know, if you're pan cooking, maybe if I just throw stuff in the air fryer, it's not as great, but
Are you a kitchen dancer?
I totally, yeah.
Oh, me too.
It
Like,
depends on what
gotta
cuisine
have
I'm cooking. I theme my music to that too. Yeah,
Yeah, me too.
100%, 100%.
When I cook, yeah, I am such a kitchen dancer. Like, oh, that's burning. It's because I was too involved into the music,
Right? Yeah,
grooving to the
absolutely.
music.
I love that. I love
That's
that.
awesome that your daughter is so involved, though. So you're setting a
Yeah.
good example.
Well, and then so I mean, she takes on those her own challenges though that way too. So like she absolutely crushed the 1 mile because she was doing like 2 miles every day after school. And then when we're there and she sees the other opportunities and the other things she can do, she's like, Dad, next year I want to do the 5K. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. If you want to do that, for sure, we're going to do that.
Oh.
So it's exciting. But I mean, the Cincinnati Marathon was fantastic because it was really like diverse and inclusive in the sense of like they had runs like just with people with their pets to come out and run together. They have pig abilities because it's a flying pig marathon. So they call them pig abilities, and it's these mile or 5K that you can do either by yourself as a disabled individual or as a team. So there were a lot of people who were wheelchair bound, and they have like these tricycle carts essentially that are all set up, and they've got their support runner running them through so they can participate in the race as well. I mean, talking about my daughter with the Cincinnati Marathon and everything she did too, and I mean, it really helped kind of keep me motivated because I end up going through like periods of where, oh yeah, I'll work out all the time. You know, sometimes I'll do like 2 a-days because I'm like hyper motivated. But even the way that our mental health like has this effect on us where, okay, the depression starts to kick in or you're really overwhelmed, you know, even if it's positive and everything's going great at work, you're just completely slammed. It's overwhelming and you're tired. If you're not getting the right amount of sleep, it really kind of contributes to that feeling of being overwhelmed, and you know, this kind of depression starts to slip in, and it makes it almost more challenging to go and exercise at those times. But I know like when my daughter signed up for the program, it's like that triggered something again in me, and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to continue to support you. And I was motivated by her, you know, my 10-year-old daughter. She's like, I want to go out and run all the time. Let's go do this. Like, let's run to the pool, Dad. And I'm like, all right, you know, I can't say no at that point. And it's the same thing that I think at times she's seen in me, where it's like, okay, she sees I'm doing 2-a-day workouts on my tonal, and they have like some parent-child even things that you can do on the tonal, and it's like, I want to do a workout with you, or let's do yoga, let's do stretches. Instead of, you know, especially with tech and everything, you know, all kids have like iPads and video games, and it's so much easier to be stuck inside than when like I was younger. But I think even my exercise routines at times have helped motivate like my daughter and my kids, and they're like, yeah, I mean, you're really pushing it, you're stepping it up. So I guess that's my then question to you is like, do you see those similarities, and how have you seen that in like maybe friends or family where, you know, I mean, I was obviously drawn to what I saw from you, you know, on LinkedIn that you were posting about working out. But do you see that contributing to like friends and family, and then
for sure
creating that motivation there?
Yeah, so I surround myself with like-minded individuals. And to be frank, you know, a lot of the people that I have in my life today are people that have actually influenced me to be the person that I am today.
Yeah,
like, and working out is part of that. You know, my really great girlfriend, Krista, she's a beast in the gym. I mean, she goes multiple times a day. I call her a gym rat because she is. And she's so competitive, and I love that about her. She pushes me to be a better person, especially in that aspect. Like, let's go to the gym. Actually, today, it's Tuesday, 4:30. We'll be at Lift Strictly Strength from 4:30 to 5:15. It's the best 45 minutes. We go hard, we sweat, we burn 400 or 500 calories, and we're exhausted when we finish. And then that exhaustion leads me to be able to go home and sleep better. Yeah. So the following day, tomorrow, I'll be able to come into work and hopefully be well rested. You know, it gives me the fuel I need to show up better in everyone's lives because it makes me feel good to work out. The people in my life now are like-minded individuals that go to the gym, but they weren't always that way, you know. And if you don't go to the gym, that doesn't mean that you're not in my life. It just means that, you know, you enjoy doing things differently than I do. At one point in time, I was the person that would like to go to the bar every day at 4:30 and, you know, have happy hour. And the hors d'oeuvres that were $5 or $10 instead of 20 or $25. That was just what I enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
Now my happy hour looks like working out at Lifetime for 45 minutes, hitting it hard, sweating, looking like a wet dog when I leave, and then going home and getting to, you know, walk Ducati, which is my puppy, around my neighborhood, or doing something else that's active. It's just a series of choices. I've changed the choices that I've made. And they all look like health. You know, I want to live longer today. Like, I want to live a different life. I want to live a healthy lifestyle. I work with sick patients every day, and I see an opportunity that I have that they don't.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for them, that's the way that they're, you know, the cards fell. Fortunately for me, I get to make a choice to live healthily. And those decisions, one being making sure that my happy hour does look like gym time instead of drink time. You know, those are securing me a better day tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so my family is really grateful.
I love
because it's a different Ashley that shows up today.
Yeah. And even if they're not there like with you actively, being supportive of what you do and not trying to like bring you down or pull you back, like, no, don't go to the gym, you know, come out and do this with us.
Right.
That's huge. Like, celebrating your successes and your victories, and
For sure.
seeing how great it is that you're pushing yourself and challenging yourself, and all the improvements that, you know, you've found in your life from changing like different, your lifestyle habits and your activities. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And the other thing you talked about too is sleeping better at the end of the day, right? So I know not only does the exercise aspect like boost your ability to have energy like sustained throughout the day, especially once you're routinely in like an exercise program, not only do you find yourself with like generally more energy, more brain power, the ability to focus and not get too sidetracked, but also at least what I've found is, you know, there's a lot of times where it's like, if I'm really overwhelmed, I'm busy and I'm not active, those thoughts just linger in my head, and I have a really hard time shutting my brain off at the end of the day and just disconnecting and decompressing. But when I am a lot more active physically and doing those exercises, for some reason, you know, that shutdown switch is a lot easier to engage, and I can disconnect from some of those other things that are just constantly on my mind, and I can shut it off a little bit better.
Same.
Yeah.
Yep. I can tell you that there is a negative committee that likes to meet in my head sometimes. And if I'm not doing something proactively to turn that, to quieten that, because it's going to be there, right? You know, the depression is something that I'll probably suffer for the rest of my life. And I choose to do things like therapy and homeopathy and meditation and things that are not a pill bottle. You know, that's not something that's worked for me. I've tried different antidepressants before, and that didn't fix the issue. So I've had to implement other things which have fixed a lot of the depression. But, you know, for me personally, depression had such a negative impact on my life that I was willing to do anything differently to try to make my days look like something that I wanted to approach. You know, without going too in depth into a dark, because I want to leave this positive, but I was just at a point in my life where, you know, I really needed some outside help. And it was a depression that I just couldn't seem to get the shadow to leave me. Looking in the mirror was not something that I enjoyed doing. And that makes it hard. It makes it really hard. And so these life choices, these decisions I've made to change, like my thinking, the committee has quietened a lot. So not having that negativity around me and all the time, I truly accredit it to one of the biggest things is physical health. Like getting out there and sweating, you know, getting outside as much as possible. I do not sit on my couch and watch Netflix. I don't listen. I don't feed my mind with things that are going to breed negativity, whether it's music, TV, podcasts. Like, I want to hear something that's going to make me feel inspired, because that inspiration leads me to productivity.
Oh,
I
yeah.
will get up and clean my house if you inspire me. Like, I'm like, oh, I like that. I like that. And if I don't like it, I'll just scroll right on past it.
Yeah.
And that's the whole purpose for doing this today, is like to let people out there know, like, if you're suffering, you do not have to stay in that suffering by yourself any longer. Please reach out to me. I am so happy to talk with you about anything. I'll just listen. But you don't have to suffer in silence. There are so many people that will support you. All I had to do was be willing to reach out for another person's hand. The support's there, and activity has changed the game for me. I mean, I want to live today, and I have an absolutely beautiful life. I have a beautiful job. My career is amazing. I get to meet people like these guys. And, I show up when people tell me to show up, and they usually send me a text message after saying, thank you for being a light in my life. And that's pretty awesome, coming from such a dark place. So It can change, and so can you.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have recognized me before.
Yeah.
I was a shell of a person. I wasn't out, like, I'm just really grateful.
So even at like recent conference, I was at Magi East in New Orleans mid-April. In one of the last day actually, the session we had, during part of it, it broke out to where like everyone was talking about mental health challenges and struggles, and it was amazing because you never find that.
Yeah.
So many people aren't comfortable talking about it, but there was a lot of people sharing their stories and their challenges and struggles, and it's like we created this like safe space, which was beautiful. And that's kind of what you're talking about, is like being there, and just it's scary to kind of like put your hand out, right, and ask for help. It's really, really scary. That's probably the hardest part, because it's also admitting to yourself and others that, hey, there's something wrong, right, and I need help.
And there's such a stigma.
There really is.
And I wish we could just end that, but one day at a time.
We're trying. I think there's a lot of people at least trying.
Right.
And it's things like this,
yes.
like when we have an opportunity to talk about it and share with other people, the challenges that other people face. It's like, oh, I'm not alone. You mentioned like social media stuff as well earlier, and you're scrolling through like all these positives. That's not reality, right? Social
they call
media,
it highlight reel for a reason.
100% highlight reel. I mean, it's a lot of them are just fake. It's like they're setting up these scenes and these scenarios where it's like, okay, look how perfect this is, look how amazing things are, and then like the reality is like maybe those people are actually struggling themselves, with their own depression and anxieties. And even what I've seen a lot of, and some of the documentaries I've watched, it's like there's even this sense of anxiety and depression that those like influencers get, where it's, I have to have this certain number of likes and followers, and that like controls their life, and that's horrible. But the other thing that I love that you mentioned was like, okay, well, medication doesn't necessarily work for you, right? Is that holistic approach. Like it's physical, it's mental, it's spiritual, and trying to find a balance with all of those things is what's important. So it's not necessarily like you need to, I don't want to necessarily promote like, oh, I really encourage you to strongly like overdo it and go push yourself super hard physically all the time, because that's not necessarily it.
Right.
What that physical health looks like for any individual is going to be different. But it's finding, I think, that balance between your physical health and your mental health and your spiritual health, whatever that may be, and finding that peace between all of them is, I think, what helps keep me balanced as best I can.
Well, and the fact that you even say that, like, a lot of people just need to believe that it exists, that there is a peace. Because when you're in that dark spot, a lot of times you don't feel like the peace is ever going to be there for you. And that's why our suicide rate goes, I mean, without even having to know the statistics, it's devastating. I was just reading about the golfer that killed himself, devastating what depression, which leads to all kinds of other things, alcoholism, addiction. It's taken the lives of so many people that have so much to offer the world. And because they don't find the peace, they take their own light. They dim that light. And, just coming from a place of gratitude that I don't have to stay in that darkness anymore. it's not that it never comes around. I want to be clear about that because I do still suffer with depression and anxiety. Sometimes I get completely overwhelmed, but I have the tools now. I've worked very hard to learn tools that keep me they just keep me in the lines and allow me to pause, and I can get through that moment knowing that this too shall pass. It'll always pass. There's a brighter day that will come, but I have to know the steps. I either can write about it, I can reach out to someone else, and talk about it, or I can just hit my knees and pray. And I know a lot of people think that's really far-fetched, but I found so much peace in my higher power. It's amazing. Like even this relationship that we have, like I told you guys on the way here that it was a God thing.
Yeah.
And it really is. I mean, from meeting you guys at the Save Our Sites conference in Tucson, to the way, things have just worked out for the workout and
all of it.
Dinner and the Diversa Trials, amazing networking event we had last night. You guys just,
thank you.
You never cease to amaze me, and I want to be part of it. And that ignites that light inside of me because I feel like we're of service. We're actually giving back to our community.
Right.
And that's the kind of stuff that keeps me going. Because when I stay inside of my head too long and I start thinking, that negative committee meets, and it's just like, I don't know why. It's part of the depression or the disease, I guess. So I have to stay outside of myself, and I have to have an external source of power. And that's prayer for me.
Yeah, I love
prayer,
that.
reading
love that
the book.
You have that balance. It's so good. The other thing you said was tools, like having the tools. And I found, and I know many other people have found, like they learn those tools through going to therapy, right?
For sure.
That in itself, outside of mental health having its own stigmas with anxiety, depression, therapy has its whole other stigma as well. It's like
I go to therapy.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
I go to therapy,
and
that person is a lifeline.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speed dial lifeline.
Finding those tools, learning those tools, so you can have those moments where you catch those thoughts.
For sure.
And then you evaluate: is this how I actually feel about it? Is this as big as I think it is? There's lots of different ways just to take a moment and actually evaluate the situations and evaluate your own thoughts, and then try to not spiral out of control, like a lot of times we end up doing. So.
Yeah. Someone said to me once, nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems. And that's really true.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, like, emotions are fleeting. This moment will never happen again. So like just to stick in the present, not having to future trip or worry about what happened 2 weeks ago that is completely irrelevant because it has no bearing on what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And so many people stay in a place that's not the present, and which is social media for a lot of people. So hopefully people that are getting to watch this will, find some sort of strength in it and go outside. No, I'm kidding.
Like and subscribe. And then
like and subscribe
get off YouTube.
And go outside. But really, it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, of course.
A ton of work. It takes the commitment to make sure that you're going to be dedicated to being a better person for yourself, that you're not doing it for someone else. And I think it's always like really considering like what's the next right thing. And it may not be what's the next right thing for Joe Schmo over here. It may be what's doing the next right thing for me.
Yeah. Being a little selfish, honestly.
Be selfish. Yeah. Take some time to get to know you. So much going on in my life that I love and I'm proud of today. And, depression's just part of it. I recognize it's depression. I honor it and let it go.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reality. I think that's part of it is just recognize it, accept it. It's not a loss. That acceptance is always, I think, almost that hardest part. If you can get to the point where you do accept, I mean, it's almost like you find that acceptance and then you're willing to maybe seek help, right? You have to be able to acknowledge that there's an issue. It doesn't mean there's anything negative about you. Everyone faces these challenges.
Mm-hmm.
But it is tough, like when you see everybody positive around you and you just feel like you're drowning inside. It is a challenge. One of the things I hear a lot lately from like one of my best friends is like that need to recharge yourself and to find that like balance and find that peace, decompress a little bit, because it says you can't pour from an empty cup. Mm-hmm. So when you have nothing left to give, I think I heavily encourage that, like, be a little selfish, right? Do all that self-love and self-care and everything you need to do to make yourself revitalized, so that way you can like pour out into others again.
Yeah. And that's what we're here for. Mm-hmm. I truly believe we're here to be of service to others. That's why I'm in the research industry. Yeah. I absolutely love being of service to others, and that fills my cup.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
But you cannot pour from an empty cup. So if I'm showing up and I'm not the best, I don't always have to be the best version of Ashley, but if I haven't taken the right steps to at least show up as the Ashley that I want to be, then I'm pretty much pouring from an empty cup, and then I'm not of service to others.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
sitting
down with me and for kicking my butt in the gym earlier this weekend. So
clips to come.
Yeah. Absolutely. Again, like and subscribe. Check out and follow Ashley Mitchell, E before the L.
Yeah, it's ASHELY Mitchell, MITCHELL.
Yeah, and then Arizona Neuroscience Research. Thanks, y'all.
Bye.